Hey guys, today we're going to do basic styling by separating each individual screen, setting up pop-outs, and basically putting all the elements where they belong. And then we're going to go back a few times and do what's called finishing work, which is making everything look nice. Like if you were going through construction, at the end they put on the moldings, all the finish work to make it look pretty. That's exactly what we're going to do. So the first thing we want to do is separate each screen, and we're going to style each screen individually. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is open up Eclipse. I already have my Eclipse open, so I'll give you a second. Yeah, there's a problem. My computer screen has a very high resolution, and Camtasia, the one that comes with the NJIT software, condenses my screen, so it comes out really bad resolution. I know some of you guys have emailed me about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work in Notepad so I can make the text bigger, and then I'll just copy and paste in here later. But it will all you could just either develop right in Eclipse or Notepad as well. I already made a folder that has my index file and my CSS file, so that's where I'm going to work out of, is my index.html. Okay, so I have a blank sheet. I'm just going to copy and paste what we have from last week into my file. And if you don't have the CSS file linked, please link it. It's the same in every default project. Just follow these characters here. Open caret link rel equals style sheet type.text / CSS href CSS index.css, and that will link our cascading style sheet, which will help us style each individual page. It'll allow us to give color, background color, text color, shadows, radius, a bunch of different stuff that we'll go through. Okay, so let's begin. If you remember from last lecture, I was saying all the div class wrappers, they're separate screens in your page, meaning in a web application, we never leave we stay on one page. We never leave the page. We just pop elements in and out of view. So we're going to do the same thing. So all these screens, so to speak, are actually just one page, and I'm using CSS animations to slide them in, slide them out, fade them in, fade them out. That's kind of a requirement for using PhoneGap, is to make everything in one page. It's easier that way. You can make separate pages, but I don't advise it, because then you can't use animations to slide in and out of pages. It's like running an HTML page over again. Also, every time you load an HTML page, it takes time. So you don't want to do that. You want to just load the HTML page once and just flip views. Okay. So we have 6 pages as of right now. I'm pretty sure 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 2, 3. Okay, so as of right now, I think we only have 4. We're going to wind up adding another one later. But that's fine. So we're going to hide our other pages. So as of right now, save. Everyone should have this when they run their project. Again, some people emailed me about the buttons and stuff being, or some of this stuff came out more, and as long as you put it in the list, it's fine. Some devices are wired than others. Again, so these are inline elements. Unless there's not enough space in the div, they'll just keep being side by side. So as long as you have something that basically looks like this, after we start this, after we start separating the screens, if you have something totally different than I do, you need to email me right away. Okay, so where do we start? Let's get our CSS style sheet, which in Eclipse will be in your assets folder, www.css and index.css. Just right click, open with text editor, and you should have our body and HTML styles from last time. So I'm gonna minimize Eclipse, and I'm gonna start in a fresh CSS notepad just so you guys can see it better, and I'm just gonna copy and paste it in. Okay, this is my CSS file that I'll be working in. So I'm gonna copy and paste the file, the CSS rules we applied last week. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is define all of our screens, so to say. So we have main page, my profile, view tasks, and other person's profile. Okay, and what we're going to do first, after we name them all, we are going to hide 3 of them, so we only work with 1 at a time. This makes it very easy to style, and we're not, we don't have other buttons that are on other screens floating around. Okay, so what we're going to do is hide other person's profile, view tasks, and my profile. We're going to save. And what you should be left with is your 2 buttons on the main screen, which is sign up or login buttons, our sign up form, and our login form. Okay, so this is technically screen 1. So we applied a wrapper class to all these screens. If you didn't know already, IDs are unique identifiers, like your school ID. It only belongs to you and only should belong to one element in a HTML document. Otherwise, when you use it later on in CSS or JavaScript, your entire page will be messed up. So what are classes? Classes are actually almost the opposite. They're meant to be used by multiple elements that share the same attributes, as in you guys are all in the same CPT 373 class, you share the same attributes. You have an online class named CPT 373. Now, the reason why we use an ID is because you have separate classes from those other people in the class, so you need to be uniquely identified at times. Same concept for CSS and JavaScript. So why am I using classes here? Okay, we have a dot wrapper class. And by the way, when you use £sign before your element name, it will target an ID. And when you put a period in front of an element, it will target a class. So dot wrapper will target the wrapper class. Let's open it up. Okay, so what attributes are they going to share? Well, they're all going to be okay. No matter what, each one of our wrapper divs are always going to have a height of 100%, a width of 100%, a position of absolute, and top and left of 0, meaning that it will be on the top left corner of the page. Height and width is always going to be 100%. And what is position absolute? Position absolute tells the document that no matter what elements are there, meaning that if we want to slide another element on top of our wrapper div, don't move our wrapper div unless we tell it to do so. Or if we have pop-outs, if you don't say I want my wrapper divs to be position absolute, when a pop-out comes out, our wrapper divs have a slight chance of moving. Also, when we do animations and transitions, if I want to slide something out, everything gets a little quirky. So to get rid of all the quirks, position absolute, it stays where it's supposed to unless we tell JavaScript to move it. Okay, so now every single one of our pages are height and width of 100%, top left 0 height, and position absolute. Now, why do I use their IDs? Because I want only one in view at a time. That means now 3 of these are targeted to display none, and main page is still visible because I didn't tell main page as an ID to go away. Okay, so you will see no difference now, but if you know how to use Google Chrome Developer, you can see your styles and change them real time, meaning say I wanted a background color. You could do changes real time. You don't have to reload the page. It's pretty cool when you're playing with heights and stuff like that. I'll show you more later. So if I right click my document, I'll see that my main page is right here. And let's see, let's refresh. And oh, that's because my body's small. Unless I did something wrong here. Div class wrapper. And okay, I found the mistake. I forgot to save my CSS file. Happens. Okay, so if I now right click my page, I'll see that the blue is my main page wrapper and is 100% height and width of the document that it fills up. So that means if we have let's say a tablet that's this size or a phone that's this size, our div will always change with the height and width of the phone or tablet, which is good because you don't want to sit there and name 50 different absolute pixel sizes for everything. So now we have a screen that's 100% height and width of every phone imaginable, which is good because it makes it easier on us. Okay, so now I don't have to write this style ever again for main page, my profile, view test, or other person profile. It's already there, so I never had to do it again, and it just saved me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 1, 2, 3, 20 lines of CSS over the period of we're going to use classes about 10 times. It's going to save you a couple hundred lines of code, and again, this is a very small app. In a larger app, it's a couple hundred of lines. It adds up. Also, it keeps your document clean. Okay. So now that we have our main page in view, the first thing we're going to do is style the main page. Okay. So let's start with our login and sign up buttons. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at our HTML file. Okay, we have our sign up wrapper and our login wrapper both in our main page pop out, which will be for pop outs, and it'll hold all our pop outs. So what we're going to do is define our main page pop out. And we're going to hide it. Okay, so now that hides everything except for 3 elements. We have our div ID logo, which we're going to do. We're going to put a placeholder there for now. We have our 2 buttons, sign up and login. Okay, and nothing should be showing except for our login and sign up buttons. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is let's go into our CSS, and we're going to target logo. Okay. I have an image coming in, so usually when you have a logo, you define the background URL in CSS instead of putting the image inline. Typically in an HTML document, you could call an image by putting in an image tag, which looks like this. Okay, the problem with this is there's no point to it, and they're hard to target for CSS. Images have some weird styles that they can't handle, like centering and stuff like that. That's like a real pain. So instead, we're gonna just make it a background image of a div, and to do that, we're gonna use the background image property. Okay, so this is how file systems work. We're in Eclipse, and if you see here, we are in the CSS folder. I'm targeting an image that's in the image folder. From here, from CSS to image, I can't directly get into the image folder from CSS. So I'm going to have to go back a folder and then go back into image. To do that, just like I showed you in command prompt to get Eclipse working. So the URL is going to be relative to the CSS document. I want to go 1 folder back, which is // which gets me to my assets folder, which is my parent folder. Then I want to go back into the image folder. Okay, so now I'm in the image folder, and now I'm just going to type in logo.png. Just leave that there for now. I'm gonna get a logo and send it. Okay, so like I said, there's problems. We want the logo centered, so we're going to use the background position property. Okay, so it is centered horizontally and centered vertically in the document. So it's just CSS3 property. I don't have to write it twice. I could just call center center, which will center it horizontally and vertically right in the document. And by default, if the image is not as big as the div that it's in or the element, by default it's going to start repeating. So we have to tell the document background repeat, no repeat. Okay, and when I get that image, I will post it on Moodle. So that will be our background image. And just to see that it's there, before all that, we're going to define some stuff. We are going to okay. Okay, so we don't want, and when we do a logo, especially on an application, websites are a lot different. We don't want our logo to be hugging corners, either horizontally or vertically. We usually want it kind of like upper center of our application Y. Alright, if you look at your phone, that's where your eyes first go to, is the upper center of the phone. You're not looking at the bottom where there's like a home button on iPhone or like Android hard buttons. It pops out right at your face. It's pretty much dead center. It's like the focal point, which should be in any login page. Your logo should be the focal point, nice, clean, and to the point. Again, big enough and bold enough so people could see like that it's there. It's very good for branding. Make sure that you have your logo in a good spot. So we're going to develop for extra high density phones, which would be like the Galaxy 3, the Nexus, the Note. Again, when you develop for Android, you have to make 4 different style sheets to accommodate for smaller phones, medium phones, large phones, and extra large phones density, because some of these phones now have 720p resolution. But I'll show you how to handle that. So what we're going to do is I've done the work and figured out a good position to put a background logo. There's no real science to it. It's more trial and error. So I'm going to push my logo down 20 pixels from the top. A width of 100% for the div, not for the logo, the container. And I'm going to have a height of 250. Again, my logo won't be this big, just the container it's in. And just to show you what it's going to look like, let's save it. And let's run the document. Okay, so again, this is just the container div. The logo will not be this big. It's probably going to be somewhere in the size of that range, and it'll be just sitting there. And no matter how wide the screen is, this won't stretch, because if I did make it, if I just set it as an image, it would have stretching issues. So that's another good thing about setting it in CSS. The image won't stretch, just the div that's holding it, and it'll look good all around. Obviously, depending on the size of the phone, we're going to make a couple different logos to have them bigger, smaller, etc. Okay. So now that we have a container div for our logo, we want to do our sign up and login buttons. Okay. So here's If you've taken CPT 330 or any web development course, I'm not sure how they showed you to handle inline elements or form elements. I'm going to show you the way I do it, and I think this is a really good way. Most of you guys are younger, so you haven't seen, even if you've taken web development courses, you haven't seen tables, and those of you that don't know HTML, you haven't picked up any bad habits. People used to use table structure, which is like a table. Everyone knows what a table is, like Excel, to put elements in a straight line. Horrible, because phones don't handle tables very well, and you'll get really weird styles. So how do I make these inline? I'm sorry, block elements. Okay, well, what I usually do is I put them in a list. List items are very easy to style. I could set the height, width, padding, everything pretty easily, and I know that everything's going to be evenly on top of each other. Okay, so we're gonna go to our HTML page right now, and we're gonna make a UL, which is an unordered list, which is a standard list that has no specific styling except for padding. Okay, we're gonna give it a class of no padding. By default, and I'll show you before I fix it. UL's unordered list have padding, which pop out our list items. I think HTML figures, hey, most lists have bulleted lists, so to handle that, we're going to give it some padding so the bullets are kind of at the edge and just the words are popped out. I guess it's good, but we're never going to use bulleted lists. But this is a good way to hold your list items. So how do we put a list? Li. And close it with li, and we're going to do that one more time. Okay, so now we have our button list, so let's save. And as I said, defaults are bulleted lists, and here using Google Chrome, when you make a website or even an app, it's good to see what default styles an element has, because they give you a visual picture. See, at the bottom there's some padding, at the top there's a padding, orange is padding and green is margin. So by default, an unordered list has padding on the top and bottom of it, so it's bumper cars to another element. So if I put another list, it gets pushed down some more by default, so it's not hugging our button elements over here. And see, if you can see in the green are our bulleted list, and then our items are in the actual list. So we're gonna get rid of all that because we don't even care about it. We're gonna do our own styling. We're gonna use our lists, our ULs, a couple of times for pop outs and forms. So I'm going to apply the same styles one time only. I'm going to do it at the top because I don't want it to get mixed with our page elements. These are quote-unquote extra elements that are used everywhere, like our dot wrappers. They're separate as well. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is dot no padding. Okay, so I just say no padding, no margin. Let's see what we have. Oh, there you go. Everything's on top of each other. The orange is gone, the green is gone. There's no padding and no margin. Okay, fine, but it's fine. We're gonna apply them. We're gonna apply them to our li. So we do have some space in between the buttons. I've come up with a few cool styles. We're going to use Google's buttons. They're blues, greens, and reds. They have really cool UI buttons, I think. So we're going to use them. Hold on one second. Okay, so we're going to do, or we're going to use Google style blue buttons. I've already gone ahead and made these styles, so I'm just going to copy and paste them in for you guys to write down. Notice .long button, those are the classes we used for our input types. Over here are buttons beforehand when we made our wireframe. Okay, so I'm going to give you a chance to write this in. We're going to color white, obviously that Google uses white for their colors. Font weight bold. Don't worry about the font family or the actual font we're going to use, because we're going to use Android's default font, which is Droid Serif or something of that nature. Yeah, Droid Serif. This is just a colored border. You don't need to put this. This is for different browsers. Let me get rid of that actually. This is just the blue that they use. It's just default blue. Background. Okay, so instead of doing an actual background color, when you want to use a Webkit Gradient, which is a combination of colors you could have from top, top, medium, top, center, bottom, and bottom. So you can have 4 colors as a gradient. You have to set it as a background, not a background color or a background image, because you're not supposed to put anything else above it. It's just syntax. If you want to make gradients, there's plenty of tools online. Let me try to look up one. Yes, this is pretty cool. You just pick the colors you want and you drag it down as far as you want. This one does 3, but you could do more. Obviously there's, you know, tons of different color combinations you could choose from, and you just pick your colors. You can make some really nice cool looking buttons this way, and you just copy the code and you paste it into your CSS as is, and then you're pretty set to go. Okay, for those of you wondering, I will post these links up in Moodle for gradients, box shadows, things of that nature, where you don't have to sit there and type out a million different lines of code for no reason, when you can just use a website to get the effect that you want. Okay, so I'm setting this to width of 100, and I'll show you why. Padding is 10 pixels because I don't want the buttons to wrap. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what it looks like in a browser. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so this is let me split the screen between the two. Okay, so long button is still over here at the bottom left, and okay, so what's happening? I have 10 pixels of padding on top and 10 pixels of padding on the bottom, and let's see what happens when we take them off. Okay, so if I take off the padding for the buttons, as you can see, it vertically fits to the your font size. So if I want padding, what padding does, it stretches out your element without actually changing the height. It's gonna be important later on when we do some advanced stuff. Just think of it as it just changing the height vertically from top. So if I set the pixel padding of 10 pixels, you're going to get 10 pixels top and 10 pixels on the bottom. Also left and right, but I'll show you what that does later. That's actually not important in this case. I set the width to 100%. Now, as you can see, that does not look good. Why am I setting it to a width of 100%? Well, because we're going to use these buttons over again, and they don't need to have their own height. What they need to do is be 100% width of whatever element they are in. Right now they are in the UL, no padding. So what we're going to do to no padding is we're going to give it a margin 10 pixels. Now, if any of you have worked with Microsoft Word, you know what margin is. It just makes an element hang off the corners, so it's hanging 10 pixels here on the left, 10 on the right, on top, and 10 on the right, and 10 on the bottom, but obviously you can't see. Okay, so you see here, that's our UL. I didn't define a height, so it's wrapping to my two elements, my two buttons, and it's just giving me margin afterwards. This gives you a cool effect. It centers the buttons, it keeps the buttons centered, and it gives it some space from the edges. Maybe we'll give this some more space. So we're going to give our long button a margin bottom 5 pixels. There we go. So now it just pushes the element below it down 5 pixels. Also, we're going to give it a border radius. If any of you guys have an iPhone, you know what border radius is. It's Apple's famous for its curved edges. You could set it to be whatever you want. So let's take a look. And we're just going to set the border radius a little higher just to show you what happens. So now it's 50, now it's 50 pixels, and it looks like those horrible round buttons that people put in websites and apps. So again, that's just something to play around with. Style wise, you can get whatever effect you want. Don't worry about doing shadows for buttons, because we're going to have some cool on-click effects that, you know, denote it being clicked and things and such. Okay, so now we have pretty much a main login screen. If you go to any other app, sign up brings you to either a page or a pop-up, or a login brings you to a page or a pop-up. Obviously we're going to do pop-up like we said before. So we're pretty much set for now on this specific page. So let's move on to the pop-outs on this page. Okay, so like I said, let's do let's start style our pop-out for this page, which holds our sign-in pop-out and our login pop-out. And where are you? Okay, main page pop-out. Let's get rid of display none. Save. Let's see what we have. Okay, as you can see, it has no style set to it, so it's just going to go underneath all this stuff over here, our logo and our buttons. That's a basic HTML structure. If you give it no positioning, nothing happens to it. Just wherever you put it in the HTML document, it'll fall right underneath. That's what position absolute does. It breaks document flow, and it'll put it wherever you tell it to. So let's take a look and see what it does. Let's do position absolute, and we want the wrapper to be on the top of the page and on the left of the page, and let's see what happens. Okay, so now it breaks document flow. It goes where we told it to. Top 0 and left 0, and it's absolutely positioned, disregarding these elements over here. So that's what pretty much what absolute positioning does. And if you don't apply a certain positioning and you just do margining and padding, you'll get position static, which is the default positioning in HTML. Okay, we're gonna get rid of this for now. Actually, I'm sorry. We're gonna, instead of styling main page pop out, we're gonna stylize the class that we had made for it before, called pop out wrapper, and we're gonna bring this up top because we're gonna use this a couple times throughout our application. So it has no specific screen. Okay, so let's save, see what happens. Okay, as you can see, the style still applied. Okay, what do pop-out wrappers do? Okay, sorry, my computer's being slow. Okay, so this is a pop-out wrapper, this semi-opaque black screen. What does it do? Well, since this form doesn't have enough information to have its own screen, we're going to make it a pop-out. Why do we have pop-out wrappers? Well, I don't want to be able to press browse or log in again until I either register or exit. So I want my user to do an action before they get out of my screen, meaning that they should either cancel or register before they should be able to do anything else. Suppose they were able to press browse while still on that screen. This screen will never leave, and that'll be an issue. It breaks flow in the app, and it obviously does not look good whatsoever. Something wrong with my computer right now. But yeah, so we don't want okay. What we don't want is come on. Okay. What we don't want is users to be able to perform actions until they clear out of our pop-out wrappers. Also, it's semi-opaque. You still want to see what's going on behind it, so people don't feel like they're in a new screen and they've navigated out of the app, or it was the developer's fault or something of that nature. So we still want to give the user the feeling that they're still inside the application, but not let them do anything. Okay, so that being said, what we're going to do is make it semi-opaque. If you've taken CPT 330, I'm sure you've learned RGBA. So instead of we're going to use the background color property, which sets the background. RGBA, if you've ever hooked up a TV, it's red, green, and blue values, 0 to 255, 0 being black, and 255 is white, and opacity. That's how opaque it is. So let's save and see what we get. We get a semi black screen. I'm going to juice up the opacity to show you what happens when I make it more opaque and less transparent. I'm going to make it 0.9. File, save, and as you can see, it's almost solid. Let's make it 0.1, and you'll see you can't see it, barely could see it at all. I find like 6 or 7 is like a nice happy medium for me, and there you go, you can kind of see it. Let's make this height 100. Let's bring this over here. Okay, file and save. We're going to make height and width 100%. So now, as you can see, I can't click these buttons until when we fix this, cancel out of one of these pop-out wrappers and get out of it. We're not going to be able to click login or sign up again, but you can still see you're in the same page and you haven't navigated anywhere really, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields and or 6. and two buttons or two fields and two buttons aren't enough for a user to have to navigate out of that screen. It causes navigation issues where you have to figure out navigation, style a whole completely different page, and the user feels like they're going in many different directions. So, okay, so that being said, we're gonna hide one of these pop-outs. Okay, so let's look and see what we have. Okay, so we have a div class of pop-out inner, and we have sign-up wrapper and login wrapper. Let's start with our sign-up wrapper. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to define them in our CSS. And also bring long button cut, and we're going to bring that to the top of our page as well as a reusable item. These should just be for items that are specific to a screen, and we want to group them all together. It doesn't really matter. It's just when you want to look back at something, we know what's going on. Okay. Okay, so this pertains to our main screen. So far we have our logo defined, sign up wrapper and login wrapper, and we're going to display none. Okay, so it should hide your login wrapper, and all we should be left with is sign up wrapper. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to do, before we proceed, we are going to style our pop-out inner, as we are going to use this multiple times in our application. We're going to bring it to the top before we have any specific div items, and dot pop-out inner. Okay. Okay, so I've actually went ahead and made Android's 4.0 ice cream sandwich theme light. I don't like the Halo black theme, Halo dark. I think light is much nicer. So as you see, I have cancel buttons. The font, don't worry about for now. That comes when we put it into Android. I have their native looking input boxes, sub navigations, top navigations. I have native loaders, and if anyone has an Android, I have Android Toast, which is a nice little way of notifying a user of doing things. So I have a bunch of widgets we could use, and we don't have to make them from scratch. Word of advice: if you're not a good designer, just go with Android's templates, because they spent millions of dollars making it look good, and you're not better than them, chances being, because they would pay you to work for them if you were. So I stick with, unless I have a project where I need like a real graphic designer, I stick with like templates, or I've taken the time out to make these templates, but they've come to look pretty good. Okay, so I've stolen this CSS for this pop out, and it's gonna look like this. Oh, I'm sorry. Right here, pop out inner. We're gonna do position absolute. Okay, why can we do position absolute? Because when a pop out is out, there's gonna be nothing else on the page. Sometimes not using position absolute kind of makes things a little quirky. So I when I can, I want to use position absolute. If this was not position absolute, this div, and when we put in our buttons, which are position absolute, they will go to the bottom of the page, because I cannot put absolutely positioned elements inside static position div. It's just the way HTML renders, and I'm going to show you an example of that when we get to putting in the buttons in the bottom. Okay, for the extra high DPI phones, 200 pixels will bring you to the top half of the phone. So why do we want it on the top half of the phone? When you click on an input on your phone, a keyboard comes up. So you want all your inputs, if possible, above the keyboard so a user doesn't have to scroll down to see what they have to fill in still. It's just good practice. I get very annoyed when there's long pages of inputs and the keyboard's covering half of them, and then I have to close the keyboard and then re-hit an input to get back into it. It's very annoying. So my word of advice is keep your input box or fields short, as in don't have more than 3 or 4, or just bring it higher to the top so it doesn't get in the way of clicking cancel and submit and the keyboard's still out, because it's very annoying to navigate away once the keyboard's out. Okay, so with 90% and left 5%, we have 5% on the left, 5% on the right, and it's 90%. So if we have a tablet, or if we have an itty bitty phone, it'll look about the same. Okay, so using percentages with your widths is probably a good idea most of the time, because you're going to go from here to here and you don't want to do too much extra CSS. It's a little pain to get it looking good, but once you do, it's a lot better because you don't have to keep remaking these styles. I could see this template right here, I could throw into the biggest of tablets or the smallest of phones. Obviously a small phone would be about this size. I would just have to make this not height a little shorter here and here, and make the height on the buttons a little shorter. Besides that, it would work pretty great. Okay, so we have a background color of F7, F9, F6, which is Android's stock color for the Halo light theme. I didn't make it. We have box shadow. Okay, like I said, I came up with the box shadow. It just shows that that pop out is off the page. As you can see here, it doesn't look flat to the page. It's popping out. So for pop outs, okay, you go to any site. I'll put this site up. This is pretty cool. You can make your own box shadows and get your desired look, and there's like tons of things you can do with box shadows. You can create tons of different effects with your box shadows. So again, I'll post this link on Moodle as well. We're not here to make box shadows, but why not use a tool when it's handed to you, especially for something like this, when there's tons of CSS to write for one little shadow and you're not even going to know it's look right. It's going to look right, so you might as well just use a tool online. I'll send this later. Okay, and a border radius of 1 pixel and padding bottom 70 pixels, and I'll show you about the padding. Okay, so why do I put padding instead of giving it a definite height? If I didn't give it a padding, my div would end right below this input box, as we saw in the buttons. It wraps around the content. The reason why I give it padding is so I can put these 2 buttons, which are I think 50 pixels high each. Okay, so why not give it a definite height? Well, I would have to sit there and figure out how high it would need to be for this to work and fine. If say it was 100 pixels, let's actually see what would happen. Padding. Okay, so I get rid of the padding, and instead of padding, and obviously that's not going to work, so instead of padding I'm going to put a height of 100 pixels. No, that's not going to work. Let's go down. Okay, and that looks great. But since this is a class that we're styling, our next form is only going to have 2 fields instead of 6. So now I would have to CSS that div as well. And our add task form, we have a big text area which is going to take up more room height wise. Again, we have to see what height works and define the height. And then also you have to do that 4 times because we have to make 4 different style sheets. So instead of writing one class 4 times, we're going to write 6 different divs 4 times, which is 24 compared to 4. So an easier way to do it is, hey, let's take the guessing out of it. Whatever height this may be, all the inputs underneath it, let's give it 70 pixels, and then just put our buttons there because we know they're 50 pixels, and we'll have about 20 pixels of space in between. That's a good way not to write CSS code. These are just tricks you're going to learn along the way. You know, this takes practice to learn these tricks, but writing as little code as possible is definitely the goal. If anyone is a regular programmer or a web developer, you know that you want to write as little lines of code as possible for various different reasons. One being performance. If your HTML is let's say clunky, it will run slow because the document has to read through 10,000 lines of CSS instead of 1. It takes a little longer. Okay, so that is why I did the padding. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Okay, so let's see what we have once we. Oh, I already put it in. So you should have a div that looks like this. Okay, it should be 90% width, 5% from each side, and roughly around the login and sign up buttons. Let's bring that up 50 pixels though. And save. Okay, so that's better. And now this is how your sign up div should look like. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is do the same thing as we did with the buttons. We're going to put all our input fields into an LI so that they are block elements and they're on top of each other. Okay, and we already have a class for that because we made it before, so now we never have to re-CSS that no padding UL class, and it makes life a lot easier. So let's go to where it says pop out inner sign up wrapper, form ID sign up form. Right under sign up form, we're gonna put in a UL class, no padding. Okay, and let's wrap all our inputs in LIs like we did with our buttons. And for the select, make sure that you only wrap LI tags around the selects and not the options, because the options are just part of the select. They are not their own elements. Otherwise, your page is not going to work, and you're going to ask me why it doesn't work. So please do not put LI tags in the option values, just around the selects. And I'm going to bring this back so you can see it. LI. There we go. And we don't need to put our buttons in a list. So what we're going to do is just close the UL underneath our buttons anyway. And I'll show you why we don't need to put our buttons in LI. Again, this is one of those tricks I learned. There's no science to it. It's just trial and error of things I've learned along the way. Okay. Oh, so I think we on UL no padding, we never said list style none. Make sure you put list style none on our no padding class. and so it gets rid of that. Okay, so now we have our sign up form, and this is what Facebook looks like now. But again, you get a good idea of what it will look like when we do take the time out and style it nicely. Again, I'm just semi styling things to see where they're going to go, and then we're going to go back over it maybe 2 or 3 more times with some fine combs, and then we're going to move on to traversing through pages. See, these are different pages in an app. You know, picking stuff. So before we do that, I want to fix all. See, this is a problem. Good thing I caught it. I should have had a pop-out wrapper here, so a user couldn't click profile and go back to the profile, and now there's no way for them to get out of here unless they click, and then they go back. They'll be in that in what they selected. So I made a mistake. So learn from my mistake. So when you have any sort of pop-outs, make sure there's a wrapper behind it. So you know, I couldn't press profile and go back to profile, and this is still here. That is an error. So say I press settings, now my settings comes up, and this is still up, and that's no good. Now everyone's having a bad day. Okay. So we're good with our sign up wrapper for now, and we're gonna hide that. Let's cut and paste from our login wrapper, and we're gonna display none. Save, and now it's not there, and our login wrapper is there. Okay, so file, save. Okay, and I think I saw this last night. Enter. Right. In our CSS, let's get rid of one N because I put 3 N's in pop-out inner, and also if you had just followed me completely, one of these had too many N's, and we're going to save it. Ooh. File, save, and save here. Okay, so now we are reusing our pop-out inner div, and so now we don't have, that saves us about 10 lines of CSS having to write it for both the sign up wrapper and the login wrapper, and we're going to use these pop-outs about 3 more times. So you could see how you could save a lot of time, energy, and file space. We almost got through an entire screen and set up a lot of templates, or most of the templates from the app, in not under 100 lines. This is awesome. Final said and done, you don't want that many lines, just in case now you're looking through it at the end and you're like, what the hell is going on? So I'll show you where I've written tons and tons of lines after a while. You're like, what the hell is going on? And that's just one page. I have like 7. As you can see, they start to get very lengthy once you have like tons and tons and tons and tons of items. Again, this is kind of old. I could probably optimize it more, but there's a lot of stuff going on. There's about 8 different screens, and different navigation stuff going on. So again, try to write as light as possible, and try to think of ways you could use classes effectively. And if you have any questions of how you can use a class or IDs, please feel free to email me. Okay, so now that we have this up, what we're going to do is, okay, so let's go down, and we are going to do the same thing for our login form as we did for our sign up form. This is going to be a lot easier. So we're going to type in UL class, no padding, and let's close our UL right before the end of our form. UL, and we are going to wrap all our input types in LIs. Oh, I'm sorry, not around the buttons. So all we need them for is our two inputs, which is our login email and our password. And we're going to go ahead and save that and see what happens. Okay. The reason why we're not putting these in LIs is because we want them side by side still. As you can see from as you can see from, I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. I just lost my place. Oh, yes. As you can see from this pop-out, we want the buttons side by side and not on top of each other. So that's why I don't put them in LIs. And also we're just going to position them absolutely later on. Okay. So we're pretty much set with our first screen. What we're going to do is we are going to click on sign up login wrapper, display none. Okay, file, save, and we should be left with our pop-out wrapper. Now, why don't we want to hide pop-out wrapper? Because if I put display none on .pop-out wrapper, when we go to style our other .pop-out wrappers, it's already going to be hidden, and there's no way to get them back. So we're going to hide it by its ID, which is main page pop-out. And I must have spelled something wrong. Yes, I did. Okay, if you have it misspelled, it's P-A-G-E, not P-A-I-G-E. And bam, there we go. So we're done with our first screen when we were for our basic styles. Okay. And we did it in about a little less than 100 lines of code. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is hide our main page. And if you run it, oh, our main page is gone. What do you want to do next? We're going to do my profile next. And we're going to get rid of display none on my profile. And we should have our pop-out wrapper because this is what we made it as per class, and our pop-out inner as we made it as per our class. So there's not much to do. So we're just going to target their IDs and hide them. So we're going to go all the way at the bottom after all our main page CSS. And what do we call this? My profile pop out. and we're going to display that none file, and we're going to save it. And save it here. And I must have spelled something wrong, so let's see. Copy. Okay. Yeah, usually when something doesn't work, it's because you just did a little weird misspelling, but for the most part. Okay, so as we said before, let's go to our My Profile. We're completely done with our main page, so let's move down a little bit. Now we are in My Profile. Okay, so we have a top section. We're not going to do anything with the top section right now. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to move it down 100 pixels because I want to leave room for our navigation bars, and that takes about 125 pixels. So let's go down 125 pixels. So div class top section. Again, this is a multi-page use. So top section, and we're going to use a new style here. We're going to call it position fixed, and I'll show you what that does. Left 0, top 125 pixels. Let's go 150, and we're going to give a nice box shadow at the bottom. I'm going to steal this one because we don't like to keep writing code. Where is it? Oh. And we're going to throw that in, and we're going to have a width of 100%, obviously, because it's going to hold all of our main page information, and we're going to give it the same background as the rest of these elements as Android. Make it nice and Androidy. Background color. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the right color. Okay, here we go. Copy, and there we go, and that's Android's off-white, so we're going to save. And what do we have? A nice little pop-out, and you're going to see it's going to look pretty cool. When we're done with it, we gave it no height, but we're going to do some cool things. So the next thing, let's see what we have in our top form. Okay, so we have our icon holder, which is going to hold our icon. Actually, I'm going to have to upload this image right here, and we're going to use that as a placeholder. It's a silhouette. It just denotes, hey, you don't have a picture. Here's default, so people know what the hell it is. So we're going to define that. We have div class icon holder because both your icon and another person's icon, when we see their page, should look the same, obviously, and my icon will be used for JavaScript when we tap on it. So we have, after dot top section, let's target our icon holder. Dot icon holder. and we are going to give it a position absolute, and we are going to bring it 10 pixels off the top and 10 off the left, just to not make it hug the corners, but we don't want it too far from the top left corner. And a standard for high density phones is about 125 to 150. Let's do 125 pics, and a background color of gray, and I almost forgot, with 125 pixels. Okay, so that's the standard. Obviously it's a box because your icon's always a box, and if you see it's too big. And this brings up a good point. So now we have, if you position absolute, if I take position absolute away and I do margin top and margin left, our element expands. As you can see, I don't want that because I'm going to have my name, my location, and my major right next to it, and on top of that, this is not an inline element, so it takes a lot more stress to get it to work right. So what we're going to do is we're going to give our top section a definite height of 130 pixels. And we are going to bring back position absolute. And we're going to save. Okay. We're going to have to make it a little higher. I forgot we brought it so off the top, so let's make it 140. Save. And now it should be 5 from the top, 5 from the left, and we have a nice picture, a nice size image. Again, when you have a phone this big, it'll probably look something like this, so it won't look too big. It just looks big here because our resolutions look a little different from phone to computer and stuff like that. Okay, so next, so that will be also when we hide this wrapper and we go to our other person's profile wrapper, the same thing will be there, so we don't actually have to do much for that page. I'm probably sure we don't have to do anything. So we have ULID, my info list. Let's change this to no padding because we don't want any padding, and it'll have the same styles. And where are you? Okay, so as you can see, our ULID, oh, I'm sorry, UL class, no padding. Okay, and that should be good. Let's just make sure. Yep, no padding, no margin. Okay, so when we do this, it kind of plays with styles a little bit because we have nothing in our LIs right now, so they collapse to 0 by default. So what we're going to do is LID equals. Okay, so we're going to style each individual LI dot real name. And we're going to give it a padding. And just to see that it's there, okay, So when I put something in there like let's see what happens. Obviously we're not going to use HTML to put in names, we're going to use JavaScript. Nothing comes up because it's behind our icon, but it does expand, which is what I was trying to get at. We are to handle, we always don't want to really position things too much. Instead, this is what we do is we're going to give it a text indent, which is if you've ever used Microsoft Word, and our icon holder is 125 pixels, so let's do 130, 140 pixels and see what happens. And there we go. So now there's just a little space between my icon holder and my name. Obviously we're going to make this bigger, so let's just do it anyway. Font with a font size property of 22 point, which is just unit of measurement. Again, it won't look this big, but you could play with it and see what you get, whatever you like. Okay, so let's do the same thing for username. I'm just going to copy and paste. We're going to do some other things with it though. Let's see. Let's just make sure it comes up. Let's do background color blue, so we could see the difference, and it doesn't come up. So unless I spell something wrong, yes I did, username list. Okay, so I'm going to file, save, and there it is, like it was before. So let's put in my username. Whatever, it doesn't really matter what you put, and there it goes. Okay, so if you've ever seen that before, you know you don't want it like this. What I'm going to do is indent it a little bit more, about 150, and we're going to reduce the size because that's not the main focal point of our app. Our name is, it could switch, it doesn't really necessarily matter, but now you see indents a little bit more and it's a little smaller and makes the name the focal point. If you want, you can make the username the focal point. And we have one more left, the major list. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to copy and paste, and this is actually closer to what we're going to keep for this li. And let's just put in my major is CPT or IS graduate, and there we go. Again, if you want to make it even smaller, you can make it even smaller. That's all up to preference and UI design. You just want to make sure that our elements are all in there, and then we get rid of our background colors. We just want to make sure that they went in. Putting a background color is great, especially if you don't know if things are going to come out right. You just put a background color and you see how they appear on a screen. It's pretty good to gauge what the hell is going on and differentiate. So this is what we have so far. If you run it on your emulators, it's going to come out differently than a browser because of the density the correction that the emulators have. Okay. Okay, so that takes care of our list, and we are going to have a photo gallery, but we're just going to put photos there from the web, and there's no reason to have let's say like a title or H1 that says my photos, because we're not making a website for $300. You know, when you make an app, try to make it professional. People know that they're photos. It's pretty obvious when they see photos appear that it's a photo gallery. You don't need to let them know that there's photos when it's pretty obvious. Okay. So for now, actually, let's take out, before we forget, let's take out, or actually, you know what, leave it there, and then you could just send me a screenshot with your name, your username, and your major. I just want to see you make sure you did your spacing right. Okay, so we're pretty good with that. Let's see, where are we? And now let's bring back our My Profile pop-out, which we had before, our pop-out for adding a task. This is our add task form. What are we going to do for add task form? Same thing we've been doing for every other form we've had. We're going to add UL class, no padding. Again, this is the same UL class we've been using the entire time. Makes it easier. So let's just wrap them in our list. And again, we don't have to put our buttons in a list, and we can just close our UL, and we're going to save. And this is great. Most of the time we don't have to rewrite CSS. We just make sure that everything's in the right kind of wrapper and or list, etc. With the same class, and things will be pretty much uniform across the board, is exactly what we want. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to go back and hide our profile pop-out. Save. Okay, and this is how my profile should look. So let's for now, and what we're going to do is hide my profile. Okay, now you should see no wrappers. And what do we have left? We have view tasks, which is obviously going to be nothing but a list, but nothing appears because we put no placeholders, so we don't need to worry about that right now. We could hide that again, save, and just want to make sure I didn't forget our pop-out. Oh yes, I almost forget what our pop-out wrapper is. Go to the CSS file where there's a class of .pop-out wrapper, and we are going to add the rule z-index 999. I'm going to send you an article on what z-indexes are, but just a brief summary. This has a z-index of 999, which means it appears on top of these elements, and I don't think if I took away the z-index anything would happen, because it really doesn't matter except if I have multiple items that are position absolute. Whichever appears first in the document will have a higher z-index by default. So especially the pop-out wrapper is going to be our #1 top document at all times. It should cover every single element. So let's make it 999, and the lowest is 1. Yeah, and we won't have to set z-indexes too often. I'll show you another example of where z-indexes come into play. For example, my edit settings has a higher z-index and I don't hide my profile because it's a different type of navigation where it just pops over and doesn't push the other one out. So that has a higher z-index. Also, in my categories list over here, it has a higher z-index than my chat wrapper, and therefore it appears above everything else. If I click that and then I click it again, it goes on top of these elements. So that is what z-index does. This is a z-index of I think 990, and this is 998, and the only thing that goes above it is our loading screen, but we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so let's go back down to other person's profile. Let's show it, save, and everything should be pretty dandy because we use classes and saved ourselves a bunch of time. Just to make sure everything works, and we'll just make sure it works by throwing in some placeholders, which we can always take out at the end, and that's about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this in my Eclipse project. Again, so this is just our first round of styling. We're going to go over it about 3 or 4 extra times because if I did this perfectly the first time, this tutorial would be about 9 hours. You know, just me sitting down here and picking at every little nook and cranny in the entire app and fixing things, optimizing, etc., etc. It takes time, so we're going to make sure that we get the basics down and then go move a little bit ahead. So I'm going to copy and paste my CSS into my Eclipse project, and I'm also going to copy and paste into here, and I'm going to run it. And for everyone, I hope that me writing in Notepad this time helped you guys out, because I know you said that when I write in Eclipse it gets a little hairy, so I know this has a much bigger font, so hopefully it helped. If you're having any problems, just please let me know. Obviously I'm here to help, and we'll make this, you know, work cool and look good. Hopefully by the end of the semester we'll have a fully functioning task manager and social network. Okay, let's see if this is going to take a couple minutes to load up, so I'm going to pause it while it does. Okay, so I ran my application, and the last screen I had available or not hidden was other person's profile. Just make sure all the screens work, everything pops out, and we're going to just do it manually. You know, pop in the pop-out wrappers, the pop-out inners, and make sure that all these are spaced out right. Your name, username, and your major. And I am going to put in Moodle to upload multiple documents. I want a screenshot of I want a screenshot of the main page. Our pop-out wrapper, and at least one of the two. Make it the sign-up wrapper. Show me the sign-up wrapper as well. I'll just pop it out now just to make sure there's no confusion. And we have our sign up wrapper, and send me this screenshot. Send me these all separate, so that's 3 screenshots. And then we want to do our profile page. And this is why we write CSS as sequentially as possible. I'm having trouble, and I did it right, so at least I know that they're all kind of near each other. File, save, and we want to show a picture of this, and then a picture with our pop out, and just other person's profile. I just want to make sure everything's right, and then just as you're taking the screenshot, just send me the corresponding block of code next to it as best you possibly can. So it would kind of look like this for, well, this is not our main page, this would be my profile. So this is my profile, and just send, you know, obviously probably not going to get the whole thing, but as much as you possibly can, and send it, and make sure everything is okay. You know, if you're having problems now, we're gonna start getting into some more advanced things. So I want to make sure everyone's caught up and good to go before we start doing some really intricate things. Okay. So that about sums it up. Thank you.